Good afternoon. Good afternoon. If everyone would be seated, and we'll get started. Thank you. The City of Southport Board of Alderman Special Town Hall meeting concerning the homeless is now called to order. This is an important topic, so thank you for being here. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for those who are watching virtually. I'll call on Reverend Alderman Lowe Davis for our invocation, and this will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Thank you. Let us pray. Almighty, most gracious, most loving, and merciful Creator God, we thank you for the many blessings, the countless blessings you bestow on us as individuals and as citizens of Southport. Today we ask your guidance so that we may have open minds and open hearts to find solutions to our problems that are beneficial to all. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Alderman Davis. Item D is approval of the agenda, and I will accept a motion and a second and a unanimous, I'm assuming, vote. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item E, I'll turn it over to our city manager, who will be moderating our workshop and for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. My name is Bonnie Therian, in case I haven't met you. And I'm going to try to moderate this. It is an open forum. I'm going to just say that since the first time this issue has come in front of us, in front of myself, in front of the chief, in front of the board, I will tell you that Chief Coring and Major Burke have done a lot of research. They have been at many, many, many meetings, and we have learned a lot. And we've learned a lot about the resources that are available throughout the county, in our area, to help us solve this issue. We've also taken a look, which we'll discuss later, at our present ordinances to see if we needed to change them, add, delete, to try to strengthen the ordinances that we have now. Heather Hemphill, who is our Park and Rec Director, can't be with us today. But if there's questions we cannot answer concerning the parks ordinance, then we will make sure. I was just talking to the mayor. I think we're going to put it on Friday's workshop and have it added so that the questions can get answered. But the board is not voting on that tonight. This is the first time that they're seeing all this. So in looking around, I see a lot of residents. I see a lot of nonprofit representatives, and I thank all of you again for being here. So what we're going to do, before I forget, because you're going to hear this theme a lot today. Yes, Chief, thank you. Oh, thanks. Is when there's an issue, when there's a problem, call 911. Do not call the chief. Do not call the major. Call 911. We have got to have it on record, and we have got to be able to respond with the officers that we have. So even if you think, oh, I don't know, maybe this isn't a big deal, just call 911. Because right now, I know the chief and the major, I asked them to try to look at how many calls we've received, and we can't find any, because I think people are reaching out, and I know all of you know each other so well as part of the problem, but you're reaching out to them. But call 911, because you start calling them, there's a delay right there. So I cannot say that enough. If you see an issue, speak up and say something and call 911. So with that, Dory, you want to do this, or you want me to, or you don't care? We can move to public comment if we would rather you come up here because this is being shown live stream to the public, so we'd rather you come up here. But if you're not really comfortable, raise your hand and Cheyenne will come to you with a mic. All right, so Ms. Dory, start. Call the
Joanne
names.
Meyer. Claire Meyer, excuse me.
And if you could say your name and address.
I'm sorry?
Name and address.
Oh, okay. My name is Joanne Claire Mayer, and Dan and I live at 710 North Atlantic in Southport. My thinking is that bad things happen to good people.
Count to 10.
We were very proud of Safe Haven as a movie based here in a book about here. We sold bracelets at the visitor center that said Southport, my safe haven. Sometimes people just need help. I have 2 requests. One from the police department with the chief's approval. I have put together packages, toiletries, Kleenex, aspirin, soap, toothpaste, wipes. I have faith that the policemen and women have the acumen to know the bad guys from the people who need help, and they've reached into their own pockets to help those who they felt were truly needy. With your permission, I would like to provide these for your officers to give out. So that's step 1. 2, I have a question for the fire department. I'm thinking, our nephew is an EMT in Virginia. They have showers in the fire department. Do we have showers here? Okay. Can we let people use those showers? That's a thought. And here's where I'm going. If someone can get clean and refreshed, they just might be able to approach someone and say, "Can I work for you today?" Just maybe. This is not a long term, this is a Band-Aid, but it is one little step.
You did good.
Sally Spalding.
My name's Sally Spalding. I live at 310 East Nash Street in Southport. And I want to thank you for having this meeting so that some of us couldn't respond to the last meeting. When I got back from the previous Alderman's meeting, I remembered that I'd seen a really interesting article 4 or 5 years ago in the Star News. It was about groundbreaking for a new homeless village called Eden Village. That's E-D-E-N. And it was promoted by a doctor there, Dr. Dalton, Thomas Dalton. So I went on the website to take a look at it and was able to talk with somebody about getting a tour. So Sue Marsh and Marianne Huntley, my two friends, and I went down last Monday, and we took a tour of Eden Village. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about it. So first of all, it's located just off of 74, the first exit after the airport on Cornegay. It's on 4 acres of land. There are 31 tiny homes situated in 2 circles facing inward so that you face each other in your homes, and there's a grassy open area in the front. It was very, very nice. They have another building that has a community center along with a kitchen, social worker's office, nurse's station, and the manager's office. So George Ellum, who was one of the volunteers there, showed us around. And as you might expect, for 400 square feet, it looked very much like the Felton Russell House that just has opened up on 11th Street. So they have a living room combination, kitchen, and separate bedroom and bathroom. So that's kind of a picture of it. It's a gated community in a residential area. All of the residents are single, and they are responsible for paying $300 a month to stay. It is not temporary housing. It is permanent housing for as long as they would like to stay or until they die. Dr. Dalton estimated that there's about 0.2% of the population in the US that is homeless. And it seemed to me that this was kind of a possible situation to look at to handle that. In closing, I just wanted to draw on my own experience from teaching in a classroom. There were always 1 or 2 or 3 children, it's an elementary school, that really needed more than the rest. And that was always the case. They just, for whatever reason, had trouble moving in sync with everybody else. And so I learned from them that you have to consider them. You don't just get rid of them, although there were a few times when I would like to. But you take them in and you work together. And thinking about that, I wonder if there's anyone here that could honestly say that they've not been affected in their families by alcoholism, drug abuse, suicide, veterans' problems, mental health issues. So I'm not trying to sell Eden Village, but I wanted to say this is one way of handling it. I don't know that we're really ready for an Eden Village or if it's even appropriate, but it's something to take a look at. And I would just like to think maybe we could get on the other side of this problem and instead of pushing people out, somehow making room for them. Thank you.
Ellie DeYoung. Perfect. Is that Sue Marsh?
Before I get started, I wanted to let you know that there is a panel discussion that's going to be held this coming Saturday at 12:30 in Wilmington. It's being sponsored by WHQR, and it says it's going to be a thoughtful conversation on housing and the homeless in the Cape Fear community, and there will be questions and answers. So if you're interested, WHQR has the information on their website, and I'd be glad to share this with you if you want more information. At the August Alderman's meeting, there were several people who were concerned about the homeless situation here in Southport. and we're suggesting that the police round them up, arrest them, get rid of them. I don't know any of these speakers, but I would guess that many of them are Christians, maybe even active in their churches. And I would say to them, ask yourselves, what would Jesus do? And if you answer that question honestly, arresting them, throwing them out of town is not the solution. When I think of Southport, I get a really nice, warm feeling. It's a town of inclusiveness. And I would like to see us look for a humanitarian approach to this. And I would like for us to get as much in front of the situation as we can. Maybe there are only 6 to 8 people now in Southport. Well, let's work with them now and come up with solutions so that if there are more, then we're ready for them. As Sally said, there are many approaches to this. Eden Village was an eye-opener. It may not be right for us, but there are communities that are looking ahead, that are taking action, and facing the problem in a positive manner, rather than shunning these poor people. Thank you.
Ronald Thompson.
Good afternoon. My name is Ronald Thompson, and I reside at 115 Thompson Drive here in Southport. What I'd like to say is pretty much what I've heard already. But it's important that we remember that we must plan. If we fail to plan, then we plan to fail. It is also just as important that we treat everyone humanely. We want to include everyone and exclude no one. I have the experience of meeting with homeless people who have come into my church on Sunday mornings, and sometimes it has made me feel ashamed because they praise harder than I do. I've had the pleasure of speaking with a couple of these individuals, and I remember the words, "That which ye do unto the least of them, you do also unto me." So we must, being a small city that's been so blessed, we must look back, go back, and give back to this community to bless those people and treat them the way we would want to be treated. We are so blessed here until we've been able to build bathrooms for people who are away from home and visiting our town. Surely we can help those who have no home but are in our town. With that being said, I'm sure that we can come together for a solution that will work for everyone. And our planning board and others, we have work to do. And I say, let's get to it. Thank you.
Sally Learned.
Good afternoon. I'm Sally Learned, Executive Director for Brunswick Partnership for Housing, a nonprofit that serves unhoused individuals and families in the county. And we have property, multiple lots, and a building at 250 East 11th Street in Southport. I wanted to come today just to speak for a minute on behalf of the nonprofit entities in our community and what we are experiencing and the supports that we can provide to the city of Southport and to local law enforcement. Chief Coring graciously met with the Brunswick Committee of Nonprofits that are part of the homeless continuum of care, where we meet monthly to look at the resources we have available, the services we can offer, and coordinate care around needy homeless individuals and families. And we have offered our help to Southport law enforcement both as a continuum, which is not only in Brunswick County as a subcommittee, but a regional, larger Cape Fear homeless continuum of care, which serves Brunswick, New Hanover, and Pender counties. In addition to that, Brunswick Partnership for Housing is located in Southport, and we have an office in Southport, which means that I have a qualified outreach specialist in Southport, and we can provide immediate assistance to law enforcement based on their request to meet with individuals and provide assessment in the street to make sure they're linked to services. Homelessness is a national problem. It is huge right now. It is the problem of our time. Largely, it is an economic issue of supply and demand. There is not enough affordable housing anywhere in the nation for the numbers of people needing it. So we're seeing the homeless numbers go up nationally, and our community is no exception. When we talk with the county, local governments, the school system, Novant's healthcare system, the thing that we hear repeatedly is we can't hire people because there's no affordable housing. When you talk to local store owners and business owners, the thing you hear repeatedly is, I can't find workers. Well, we can't find workers in retail and tourism and basic service industries because there's no place for people to live. So in a large rural county, most of the people we see that are homeless are tucked away out of sight. They're sleeping somewhere in their car, they're sleeping in a shed, they're moving from couch to couch. They're not usually seen. So periodically, about once or twice a year, you have a bump up where you have a large tourism influx, and all of a sudden it's summer, and somebody who's been living on the streets and homeless thinks it would be nice to be homeless in Southport. And they come to the beach. And that's the clash up that happens periodically. And it doesn't just happen in Southport, it happens in every resort community up and down the coast. So the response that the city of Southport has largely taken up to this point, which I think is excellent, is a targeted response to meet people where they are, to assess what their needs are. If there are calls and complaints that come into 911, investigate those, and if somebody's breaking the ordinances, enforce those ordinances. And then call for backup and support around those individuals as needed. Your law enforcement community is crisis intervention trained. Coastal Horizons, an area nonprofit mental health provider, it has a mobile crisis team. We're in the community. And for the other part of our homeless population, Senior Resources is right here in Southport. I cannot tell you the number of calls I've gotten in the last 6 months since the eviction moratorium was lifted post-COVID on the numbers of elderly that are sleeping in senior center parking lots in their cars because they cannot find housing. So we have a mix in our homeless population which requires a mixed response. And what I like to say to communities is if you're dealing with high-risk individuals who are breaking the laws, act accordingly. Hold everyone accountable, whether they're housed or not housed, to the same set of ordinances and behaviors in the community. On the other hand, if you have somebody who's just sitting at a street corner or watching the water off of Bay Street and they're not acting out, the response holds to act humanely, to reach out to see what they need, to help link them with food, to help link them with services, to see what can be done. Call one of us in the nonprofit community through law enforcement and we'll come in and help make an assessment. But that's the humane response to this. Right now, most of the homeless folks we're seeing in Brunswick County and in Southport are not single individuals downtown in your parks. They're homeless families with children, they're elderly, they're tucked away trying to stay someplace safe. A lot of them are working in our community. A lot of them cannot afford housing in our community. And it's that simple. It's a supply and demand problem. So when we look at this as a community, what I urge folks to do is look at the entire continuum, the entire array that we're faced with when we talk about homelessness, and then to target our approaches based on where folks fall on that continuum. It has to be a holistic approach. It has to solve all pieces of that. The other thing that compounds this for Southport is that there is no emergency shelter anywhere in Brunswick County. And I don't know that people realize that. Brunswick Partnership for Housing does not have an emergency shelter. We operate transitional housing for families with children. The closest emergency shelter is in Wilmington at the Good Shepherd Center, and it is full and stays full. Salvation Army closed their shelter in their process of moving. When they reopen a shelter, it will be many, many, many fewer beds. The shelter that used to serve Brunswick residents in the southern end of the county is in Myrtle Beach. They no longer take out-of-state residents because of the demand from South Carolina residents. So if you know the size, the length and the breadth and the width of Brunswick County, you know we have a huge geographic footprint that has no emergency shelter support for people, and for people who are working, for people who want to be engaged, who have services here, who have some connection here. There is some talk underway now around some sites in the county that might be appropriate for emergency shelter. The nonprofit sector is working with the county to take a look at some of those sites, to look at their zoning, the appropriateness, the feasibility of developing those. But in the meantime, as communities, what we're called to do is look at how we can provide supports and services when we can't put roofs over people's heads. So I just echo the comments that have come here, which is the call to Southport to act humanely, to respond intelligently and in a targeted fashion, and in a safe fashion, one that acknowledges that sometimes high-risk people are high-risk people, and those calls need to be made to 911 when that happens. We encourage citizens anywhere never to give cash to homeless individuals and families. If somebody needs food, give food. If somebody needs gas in their car, pay at the pump for them. If somebody needs whatever, give them that 2-gallon bag of toiletries, bottles of water, and power bars. Be smart in your approach. Be humane. Understand that there, but for the grace of God, go many, many of us. Thank you.
Paul Whitmer.
My name is Paul Whitmer. Excuse me. I live in here, been here 21 years. I've seen a lot of things going on. I, with the American Legion Post 543 here in Southport that we meet, I've been working with the homeless for the past 10 years, and it's been here. We have over 18,000 veterans, and I migrated for helping veterans into helping the homeless. I'm also the treasurer of what's called Brunswick County Homeless Coalition. We are a group of volunteers that reach out and try and help those stay in their houses that are there. Just a couple numbers to go over. But so far this year, we've helped 155 families. 36 of them are in motels temporarily. That's expensive because we're all volunteers and we live on donations. But we've helped 49 pay their water bills and electric bills, and we've helped 58 with rent assistance, because in this county, everybody keeps raising the rent. The contractors are adding more money. I want to give you one example. Coastal Villas, which was owned by Sacred Heart at one time, has changed owners twice. The new owners have raised the rent $400, and in November, 13 families were evicted. They are now homeless, and they had to find a place to live. And in Brunswick County, you have a 3 to 6 month waiting list to even find an apartment. So that's always going on. And of course, as we look around the rents, if you talk to anybody, they keep increasing and our wallets keep somehow shrinking. I don't know what's going on there. But anyhow, they are here. There are groups where throughout the county, Sally's group is in the county too, but primarily here in Southport. And there are groups willing to help put something together. And I'm appreciative of what Southport is doing and looking at this issue. The commissioners have not, for several years, thought of putting in a homeless shelter, but it is needed here. And we actually have people that have land to want to put together, but they don't have the funding to build the place. So we're still working with the commissioners, and the commissioners this past year has assigned someone to address the issue of transportation and homelessness in your county. And they've not had that person for years, but that's now available to you. So I just want to say, again, you quoted Matthew 25:44. Then they shall answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee at hunger, athirst, or a stranger, naked, sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? And then he answered thee, saying, Verily, I say unto you, inasmuch as you did it not to one of the least of these, you did it to me. I am appreciative that we are addressing that issue. Either you're part of the answer or you're part of the problem. And the question is, you have to ask yourselves, what do you want to be? Thank you.
I think the name is Casey Poplacki. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Casey Poplaski. I'm with Brunswick Senior Resources, and a couple of my coworkers are here today to really just let the community know that we're here. Like Ms. Learned said, there's an array of homeless people. We're dealing with the senior population, those 60 and up, and so we are the ones that she mentioned. We come into work in the morning and there are seniors that have lost their homes and they're sleeping in our parking lots in their cars because they feel that's a safe place to be. We have cameras around the senior centers, and then they know at lunchtime they can come in and get something to eat and socialize with folks, and we try to make the community aware that we offer that. We're kind of known for Meals on Wheels and our congregate dining, but I dare say a bigger part of what we do is connect people with resources. So if you know of seniors that are in danger of losing their homes, we can connect them with the right folks like Paul, maybe get them some assistance to just kind of carry them through a rough patch. Or if they have already lost their homes, we can maybe get them to a shelter or link them with a shelter that will take them. It is hard to find a shelter. And a lot of the ones, if you were to look in a phone book, if there are still phone books, or Google something, which a lot of our seniors can't Google, and if they're homeless, they probably haven't been able to pay their phone bill. So they can't just call around to shelter to shelter to shelter. But if they show up at our door, we could do that for them. A lot of the shelters only take you in if you can work. You can stay there if you work, but a lot of our seniors, they can't work. I mean, they're on walkers, and some of them are in wheelchairs. So there aren't a lot of shelters that will take them since they can't work. So we can at least kind of try to get them where they can go, and maybe give them some food and occasionally a place to stay for a couple of nights. But you can send them our way. We have 5 senior centers throughout the county. But yeah, Southport is definitely seeing some homeless senior cases. As Mr. Whitmer mentioned, Coastal Villas, yeah, I mean, some of my seniors, their rents went from $380 a month within a couple of months' time up to $1,000. And they've lived there for many, many, many years and now have nowhere to live. There's nowhere here in the community, and Y'all keep in mind, some of the seniors are afraid to leave. I mean, you might argue that, well, there's probably cheaper places to go in Wilmington, but they're scared to go there. They don't like driving as it is. If they drive minimally, they're terrified to drive in Wilmington traffic. So they're trying to stay here. And we just have some compassion for that and understand the thought process there. But if you know of seniors that need resources, you can send them our way. Thank you.
Garrett Albertson.
First of all, I have to confess I walked in a little bit confused. I was late, and Chief Coring said, sign here. I did. I didn't know I was signing up to speak. However, I do feel passionate about this issue. My name is Garrett Albertson. I'm one of the pastors at Trinity United Methodist Church. This may sound a little naive, but I did hear of those who suggested that the homeless could be qualified or evaluated. And it is entirely possible that some of us could, even on a temporary basis, take some person into our own home. There are persons like myself who find ourselves in a large home, and we've even considered downsizing. The real estate market today, the reality is that if you try to downsize and you have a mortgage that's 3%, you're going to go into another facility and pay 7 to 8%, and it'll cost you more to live in a smaller home. I'm one of those people. I have 3 extra bedrooms. Nobody uses those 3 extra bedrooms. Maybe I need some help in evaluating all this. And just because I have such a wonderful, good-looking group of people before me here, I can hardly resist giving you part of my most recent sermon. I preached from another passage that moved me. It's from James. The Apostle James, of course, is the one who over and over emphasized doing, done. And at the end of that wonderful passage of Scripture, he says, what is true religion? It is to give aid to the widowed and the orphaned. One of your earlier speakers said, which one of us has not had someone in our family perhaps struggling with mental illness, struggling with alcoholism, perhaps a veteran with PTSD? My extended family is large enough, I'm here to tell you, all of those have impacted us. And if they have not impacted you yet, well, thank God for that. Southport, yes, is a place of safe haven. And my prayer is that we might open our hearts and find creative ways to safely bless and provide for those less fortunate. Thank you very much.
That's all I have right now.
Does anyone else wish to speak who did not sign up? Just raise your hand. Okay, then I'm going to call on Chief Coring and Major Burke, and I hope we all learned a lesson that the next time the chief says sign here, you don't.
Well, I guess, Pastor, that was truly the Lord's work, because I was asking you, did you want an agenda? I didn't know that it came across that you needed to speak, but I do appreciate you speaking and welcome you as well as everyone else. And I see a lot of our partner agencies or groups are here, and I want to thank you for being here, our alderman, our mayor, and our manager, city staff. Thank you for calling this assembly for something that has caused quite a stir in Southport. I was not at the alderman meeting. I've been a little under the weather, and I was out of town with family. But I have reviewed the live streams and read several of the comments, and I just want you to know that this is something that the Southport Police Department is not taking lightly. It's something that is not new to Southport Police Department. November will be 5 years that I've been the police chief here. I'm very thankful for that and blessed to be a native of Southport. And I was talking with Major Burke probably about 2 weeks ago at our office, and I was just recounting the different folks that I've encountered since just the 5 years that I've been here that are homeless and that do wander into Southport. And I ask them sometimes, what brought you here? And sometimes the remarks are, well, we just rode across, it was free on the ferry from Carolina Beach. Nice boat ride. A lot of people love our breezes. They love the community. They love just the kindness of Southport. And some of the folks say they don't see that anywhere else. They're treated harmly or badly in different areas. So that's just some of the remarks that they said to us. But I just want you to know that Southport Police Department is trying to be creative in the way that we're trying to handle this. We are professional and courteous in the way that we're handling this. I'm proud of the men and women of our police department that have been working with this issue. And I hope that we can, from this meeting, move forward with our alderman to find a best way forward, as I know our mayor likes to say a lot of times, moving forward. I just want to go over some of the partners. I was jotting notes down before I came in today. These are just some of the resources that myself and the major and different officers have reached out to. The Homeless Continuum of Care, that's a tri-county group, and some of those folks are here today. Our Brunswick County partners, our Senior Resource Center, Ms. Helen Bunch, one of our managers, David Stanley. Other cities that are dealing with homeless right now, I've talked with the Wilmington Police Chief. I've known him for many years. We've also reached out to Fayetteville Police Department. The major's got some history there, and we've been looking at some of their things. The Interchurch Fellowship here in Southport and Brunswick County, and some of those folks are here, and I appreciate that. Street reach groups, closest one we're finding right now is around Pender County, Onslow area, but a couple of those folks have reached out to me and want to come and meet with me to try to work out some things they can do, and they want to try to start something here. Our Brunswick County Chiefs of Police Association, I've talked with several of our chiefs here in the county about their experiences. Mr. Paul Whitmer, you've heard from him with the Legion Post, about our veterans and how he's working. The Southport Cares Initiative group, they reached out and I talked with them, and they were able to give us some gift cards to help us with needs. Miss Sally Lerner, who you've met here today, and we're blessed to have that group right here in Southport. They've been a tremendous help already. We've already reached out to her, and they've met someone here in the field and helped us with that particular person in that situation. And some of our mental health partners, Coastal Horizons, and some of our Brunswick County groups. So that's just a tip of the iceberg of folks that we've been reaching out to and continue to network with. Because like I said earlier, this has caused quite a stir in Southport, but it's nothing new to us. It's nothing new to the county. I've reached out to the sheriff's office as well, and my prior service there. This has been going on about 12 or 13 years. And about the 5 years before I left, we were actually doing field area searches in the county for some of the tent groups and things like that were popping up. So unfortunately, this is something that we're dealing with all over the county. So I just want you to know this is some of the resources and things that we're doing. As you heard the manager say earlier, we are kind of flipping the script back, and you hear people say to call 911. When I was a dispatcher across the street when the police department was there, the police chief then, Bob Gray, he launched an initiative called See Something, Say Something. Call 911. So we're going to reiterate that again, and you've heard that before. A lot of people don't like to call 911 unless something's on fire or somebody's bleeding to death or they need an urgent type of response. But if you see something that bothers you, call 911. That is the fastest way to get a response. If you see someone you think is unresponsive in a car, call 911. If you see somebody laying on the ground over here, call 911. If something does not look right to you at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, your dog is barking, don't email me, call 911. And I say that because I do get emails and text messages. Chief, somebody was in my backyard last night and I didn't want to call 911, but call 911. We just want you to, that's the quickest response. You're going to get an officer, you're going to get a fire truck, you're going to get an ambulance, you're going to get a solution. If it bothers you, it bothers us. And we need to document this, and we need to have the proper things in order. So again, just to call 911 is my message today. And again, this has stirred us up. I had one gentleman that took time to call me from Charlotte last week and said that I wrote it down because it kind of crazy. He called me a bleeding heart do-gooder. So upset because we are giving money to these homeless people. Well, let me assure you, we're not reaching in and giving them cash money. We're helping them. If they say, we need something to eat, we've had officers that I did not realize, me and the major, till we started really talking about this. We didn't know they were going and buying them food out of their pocket and bringing it back to them. But I'm glad that they did. They helped them. We're not just giving out cash money to people. So I want people to know that's not our approach. We are professional, and we try to handle these matters as best we can. But again, see something, say something, and I'm going to turn it over to Major Burke. He's going to talk a little bit about enforcement and how we're moving forward with that. So thank you very much.
Kind of hard to follow that. Hey, he's 6'4", I'm 5'8", so we got to move the microphone back down a little bit. I want to say I appreciate everybody who has spoken so far, and those of you who are at least here just to look and listen and provide your input even after the meeting, perhaps. But listening to everyone who has spoke so far, the resources are here. You guys know what the need is. You know what the problem is. You got to figure out how to work forward to come to some solutions, and it's a bigger problem than the chief, myself, the mayor, the board of aldermen here. So we're just a small piece in a bigger puzzle. I say let's keep moving forward. You got the momentum. Go ahead and keep it going. So, and if you see something, say something and call 911, just in case. Just a quick overview, and I'll be open for discussion as we need to from there. One of the big pushes that came up when this issue reared its ugly head a couple months ago was enforcement. We need more ordinances, we need more rules, we need more laws. As I think we've seen here today, that's not the case. Our ordinances were in place, have been in place. They're not as much of a preventative as they are a way to help come to a conclusion to fix the problem, not just the enforcement element of it, writing the tickets, taking the people to jail. As I said in the previous meetings, that doesn't do a whole lot to solve the problem. I will say that as we move forward looking into this situation, that we have found some issues with ordinances, and we're looking at ways to strengthen those ordinances, which we've put out to the board to start taking that first step to review and strengthen them up across the board. It is also our intent and the purpose of this review to not focus the changes and the rewrites or the edits for ordinances and focus these issues, or focus the enforcement element of it directly on the homeless folks. If there is an issue with an ordinance or an issue with a violation, then we want it to be across the board equally and fairly enforced, whether you're homeless or you live on the waterfront. So as we move forward, we'll continue to evaluate those ordinances, be it times and punishments and penalties, and come to whatever the best conclusion is to help rectify the problem as a whole. I think part of the issue here is when it first came about, first became public, there's a lot of emotional response that took place from day one. And as you can see from the speakers here today, there's still quite a bit of passion. And so let's take that passion and focus it on coming to the best solution to help those that we're dealing with on a daily basis. Like I said, these officers are buying them food, they're giving them money, they're helping them find places to stay when we can at 2 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning or whenever we run across them. So let's work forward, let's work together to move forward and create a more stable solution countywide, not just 1 or 2 isolated incidences. As far as ordinances go, several questions, and I'll just make this a general statement across the board. There are state laws that restrict certain amounts, certain camping, overnight camping, and those types of things. We can't specifically address the content of those. We have supplemented those general statutes with city ordinances that do provide some restrictions, some additional restrictions, which will give us a little more teeth if necessary to address specific incidences where people may be camping either on the waterfront park, which everybody likes to stay at the waterfront park and watch the boats and watch the sun go down and come up and read books and sleep. Some people like to do it in Franklin Square Park, and it's not just the homeless people. So as we move forward to review all these ordinances, and the mayor and the chief and Director Hemphill and myself have all looked over them, and we still have quite a few more steps to take before we actually come to something that we're ready to move forward on. With that, I mean, I can go on for hours and hours about ordinances and writing tickets. As we've said, the chief is very familiar with it. When the opioid epidemic kicked off really big in this area, somebody else in another presentation made the statement, and I'll steal it from him: you can't arrest your way out of this situation. You can't arrest your way out of a fentanyl overdose or an addiction, and you can't do it away from homelessness. So let's take that energy and focus on trying to come to a conclusion that can help these people.
Just so they know.
As part of the rewrite, the question was addressing fines and penalties. So there are two parts to a city ordinance and a state law. City ordinances are civil fines, generally associated with a cash penalty. As I've said before, they don't have enough money to get a motel room or anything else, so paying a fine doesn't help them. What we are doing is associating a lot of these ordinances, which was part of a bigger issue for Senate Bill 300 that went into effect in 2021, to address the association with city ordinances and decriminalize portions of city ordinances to avoid that arrest element and that civil penalty, because all that does is compound the problem. But in conjunction with that particular city order or that particular general statute, we are adding penalties, 25, 50, or a tiered system for those violators that are not directly associated with the homelessness, if that's appropriate charge. Does that make sense? So if you've got a homeless person who set up camp in Franklin Square Park, we get a call, we respond and address the situation and determine the issue, underlying problem is a homelessness issue. Writing them a $25 city citation is not going to fix it. We're going to add that for the repeat offenders, and then if the criminal response that we're trying to address is justified, there is the ability to make a misdemeanor arrest on site, on view, by the officer. So we're adding that level of enforcement so that we can either write citations, write state citations, or make an arrest if it's appropriate. However, that is not our go-to response. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I'm not sure if that makes sense to me or not. If this person is homeless and you've approached them 2 times, the 3rd time you would arrest them? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
No, there are no absolutes in this conversation. No, I'm just telling you it adds the ability if that is appropriate. If the underlying issue is homelessness or mental illness or even substance abuse for that matter, there is no default. We've been here twice, you're going to get a ticket. We've been here 3 times, you're going to go to jail. That is never, we do not teach that. I do not train my officers to do that. We are always looking at the underlying cause and need and what the appropriate solution is.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, I may not have explained that clear enough. I'm sorry. Thank you for asking.
Most of the time when I've been dealing with the homeless, we get them into a motel for a few nights, and then we encourage them to go to Wilmington and become their problem. No, there are places over there that can help them in different situations. I had a vet that I took to the Avery House and got him in there, and they assisted him. He moved in, he had a dog with him, and they actually had to help him for several months. But when you run into a homeless person here, after the first or second time, they seem to disappear and again move to another situation. And I know you guys have made suggestions, and we do that also to try and avoid them being a permanent homeless person.
Absolutely. Like I said, our underlying goal when we get there is to address the issue. The question was brought up early on about obvious violations of city ordinances or laws. We will address that enforcement aspect. If an arrest is appropriate, then that's what they'll get. Just like Ms. Learn said earlier, we will address the events, the crime, the circumstances at that time. If that's what needs to happen, then that is what happens. However, it is not a go-to, arrest them and take them to jail, and they're going to spend 30, 45 days in jail because they can't afford a bond, they can't afford to get out. When they get out, the case is dismissed, and guess where they are? They're back down in the waterfront in the same set of circumstances, same situation. So we've done nothing to address the issue, excuse me, the underlying issue. Our goal is to try to get them to not be homeless, to get them the resources they need. That's why I'm so happy that you guys are here, that we can see this, that everybody else can see that these resources are in place. Our officers reach out to them on a regular basis when we address these issues, when we run into these folks, and try to direct them to the resources that they need. And yes, we've had conversations about the veterans and the veteran resources and their unique situation in and to themselves. So we try the best to not put them on the boat and send them to Curie Beach, or not transport them to Wilmington to Good Shepherd Center, because like you said, it's full. They can't go there. There's nowhere for them to go there either. The bigger issue is there is nothing like that in Brunswick County. There is not a location, but there is a significant need. Maybe this is the kickoff point for getting those problems addressed.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? Dory, is the park ordinance changes on the website?
They can be.
Yes, can we make sure so that for those who haven't seen those changes, they will be discussed on Friday with the board workshop Friday at Indian Trail, but that way you can at least look at it ahead of time. So we'll make sure it gets out. Just a couple of things. Last call? Okay, just a couple things. I appreciate everyone being here. Very important that we talk about this. As was mentioned by a few speakers, we need to, as a community, we need to work together to find solutions. We're working on it. We can always use your help. It's going to take a while. The resources that are out there, as I said, since the last board meeting, we've learned so much about those who are out there to help us. So we're going to be using and utilizing them to find other solutions. I know there was a request from some residents about starting a neighborhood watch program. If you want to do that, please contact myself or the police, and we can get somebody down there with your neighbors to train. But just remember, though, it's called a neighborhood watch program, so the neighbors do have to take responsibility for taking on those duties. But if it's something you're interested in, please contact me and I can get that worked out. I guess the other thing I've heard loud and clear, you should contact your county reps, and say, we need to get something going, not just for Southport, but you can't just talk to the local board of aldermen when it's a county-wide project. I mean, I was talking to the manager in Oak Island. There's homeless there. There's homeless everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. So you've got to contact the county reps about helping all of us in this county solve this problem, not just one town. I think that's all I had. I want to thank the major, and the chief for all the work they've put into this, and we'll continue to work on this. And I know the board, it's a high priority for all of you. The only other quick comment I just want to make is I'm originally from Connecticut, and I was an intern there not that long ago. If you want to see a homeless issue up there, it's humongous, the numbers. But my point is, if you want to help, because a lot of times we were seeing up north was a lot of aggressiveness. If you really want to help people, give gift cards, money, whatever, to Sally's organization, to all these organizations. That is really the way we can help these individuals become stronger, become people who can really contribute to society. But I just would not recommend handing money out. But I think if you give to these organizations, you can make a big impact on these people. So thank you all for coming. Mayor, you want to close this up?
What an excellent discussion today. I'm so proud of this community and the people that are here today, and your passion and your heartfelt kindness. And Reverend Albertson talking about opening up his home. You know, what a beautiful comment. Offering, help to those, to the least of my brothers. So we have to find solutions, as the chief and the major have said, that's the key, finding a solution. And it has to be a countywide solution. It should not be, it can't be just a Southport solution. And people should not be living on the street anywhere homeless. So we have to find a way to get them back into society. And working with our county commissioners, donating, these are the ways that we start and we move forward in the best way forward. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn from our board. And then we'll have a close, well, that's right, we'll have a motion to go into closed session. Pro Tem, and second by Alderman Lombardi. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. We'll go into closed session. Thank y'all for your attendance. motion to go out of closed session? Okay, motion to go out of closed session. Alderman Allen, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you very much.